In 1920, HMS Hood became a symbol of British naval power and imperial strength. For 2 decades, the largest warship in the world, she embodied the glory of the Royal Navy and served as a steel ambassador of Britain in ports from Australia to Canada. But on May 24, 1941, in a matter of minutes, the legend turned into tragedy, proving that even the greatest ships of the past were powerless against the new realities of war. Today, we tell the story of the mighty Hood, a ship meant to be unsinkable, yet destroyed by a single hit. A story of greatness, overconfidence, and the price paid by 1,415 men on that May morning. Laid down on September 1st, 1916, at the John Brown and Company shipyard in Clydebank, Scotland, Hood was built as a response to a new generation of German battlecruisers, the Mackensen class. In the midst of the First World War, when the naval arms race had reached its peak, the Admiralty needed a ship capable of countering any threat at sea, a vessel combining the speed of a cruiser with the firepower of a battleship. But 3 months before her keel was laid, an event occurred that changed the entire project. On May 31st, 1916, in the North Sea, the Battle of Jutland took place, the largest naval battle of the First World War. 3 British battle cruisers, Indefatigable, Queen Mary, and Invincible, exploded and sank within minutes after German shells penetrated their ammunition magazines. More than 3,000 British sailors were killed instantly. The investigation revealed a fatal flaw. British battle cruisers had weak deck armor over their magazines. Speed had been achieved at the expense of protection, and that philosophy led to catastrophe. The Admiralty urgently redesigned all Admiral-class battle cruisers, including Hood. Over the following months, designers added more than 5,000 tons of additional armor. This transformed Hood into the most heavily protected battle cruiser in the world. Hood was built over 4 years. On August 22, 1918, she was launched, just 3 months before the end of the First World War. She entered active service in 1920. What emerged from the Clydebank shipyard was breathtaking. Length, 860 feet, the longest warship of her time. Beam, 105 feet. Displacement, 48,360 tons at full load. Speed, 32 knots. The fastest large warship in the world. Crew, 1,418 men. Main armament, 8 15-inch guns in 4 twin turrets. Armor belt, up to 12 inches along the sides. But one problem still remained, the same one that had destroyed her predecessors at Jutland. Yet during construction, new equipment, systems, and weapons were constantly added. The ship grew heavier. To preserve speed, compromises had to be made, and armor was reduced elsewhere. The horizontal deck protection remained relatively weak, ranging from about 1 to 3 inches in different areas. Against shells descending on steep trajectories from long range, it offered almost no protection. Hood was not just a ship, she was a work of art. Her silhouette, long, low, and stretched, stood apart from the bulky, angular battleships of her era. She was elegant. Journalists called her the pride of the fleet and the most beautiful warship in the world. Artists painted her. Postcards bearing her image were printed in the millions and spread across the British Empire. From 1923 to 1924, Hood undertook a round-the-world voyage as part of a squadron of 4 cruisers. The route took her through South Africa, India, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Everywhere, crowds of thousands on the shores, official receptions, ceremonial salutes. In a single year, Hood visited 28 ports and sailed 56,000 nautical miles. This was not a military operation. It was a spectacle. The largest warship in the world was showing the flag of the Empire, reminding the colonies who ruled and potential enemies what they were up against. She sailed in the Baltic Sea, where her presence cooled the ambitions of newly formed revolutionary governments. In the Mediterranean, where she patrolled during the Spanish Civil War. In the Atlantic, where she hunted German merchant vessels at the start of the Second World War. Over 20 years of service, Hood traveled hundreds of thousands of miles. She was seen in Gibraltar and Singapore, in Alexandria and Halifax. Millions of people around the world recognized her silhouette, as easily as they recognized Big Ben or Buckingham Palace. Hood was built as a ship of a new generation, and you could feel it inside. The admiral's quarters and officers' cabins were located in the aft superstructure, spacious by naval standards, wood-paneled, with their own wash basins. The wardroom even had a piano, and it was actually used. Hood's officers were considered men of a certain culture, and musical evenings were part of life on board. The sailors' mess decks were cramped, but in their own way, cozy. Over 20 years of service, the crew turned them into something like home. Photos, newspaper clippings, sketches on the bulkheads. In almost every mess, you'd find a guitar or a harmonica. Hood had a reputation as a ship with a good spirit, the kind of place where real friendships were formed. The ship's bakery was a point of pride. It didn't just supply bread, but proper cakes and puddings, a hallmark of British naval tradition. The Sunday pudding on Hood was famous across the fleet. By the late 1930s, the Admiralty clearly understood HMS Hood was outdated. Not in spirit, she was still a symbol, still magnificent, but technically. New battleships, British, Japanese, American, and German, had far stronger horizontal protection. They were designed with the lessons of the Battle of Jutland in mind. Hood, however, still carried the same vulnerable deck armor conceived in 1916. Plans for modernization did exist. Several times, dates were set to bring her into dry dock. Several times, they were postponed, first due to financial constraints in the interwar years, then because of the outbreak of World War II. War demanded ships at sea, not in dockyards. The modernization never happened. That decision, or rather, the repeated delay of that decision, became her sentence. May 1941, the German battleship Bismarck breaks into the Atlantic to hunt British convoys. The Admiralty sends its best to intercept. Hood, the largest and most famous, under the command of Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland, with 1,418 men aboard. HMS Prince of Wales, the newest British battleship, freshly commissioned, so new that civilian shipyard technicians were still working on board. On May 23rd, British cruisers locate Bismarck in the Denmark Strait between Iceland and Greenland. Hood and Prince of Wales move to intercept. That evening, Hood's crew is called to action stations. Sailors take their positions. Some write quick letters, just in case. Some pray. Most simply wait, with that particular soldier's calm that hides something far more complex. 5:35 a.m. Denmark Strait. Hood and Prince of Wales approach Bismarck and Prinz Eugen at an angle that exposes only their forward turrets to the enemy. Admiral Holland wants to close the distance quickly, to reduce time under fire. But that same course means Hood's aft turrets cannot engage. 4 of her 8 guns remain silent. 5:52. Hood opens fire first. Range, 15 miles. Bismarck responds immediately. The first minutes, an exchange of salvos. Hood takes a hit near the superstructure. A fire breaks out. Serious, but not fatal. 5:59. Bismarck's 7th salvo. One or several shells descend at a steep angle, the very trajectory that had destroyed British battle cruisers at Jutland 25 years earlier. They penetrate the thin deck armor. They reach the aft magazines. What happens next is witnessed from Prince of Wales and from the German ships. First, a bright flash between the aft funnel and the rear turret. Then, a moment of silence. And then, Hood explodes. Not just burning, not just sinking. She is torn apart by a catastrophic detonation of her magazines. A column of fire and smoke rises hundreds of meters into the sky. The stern and bow lift from the water at unnatural angles. Within 3 minutes, both disappear beneath the surface. From the first shot to the loss of Hood, 8 minutes. Prince of Wales disengages. Where the largest warship of the British Empire stood moments before, there is now only wreckage, an oil slick, and a few heads in the freezing waters of the Denmark Strait. Out of 1,418 men, 3 survive. They are rescued hours later by the British destroyer Electra. 3 young sailors, from all those who drank coffee in the mess decks, played guitar, wrote letters home that night. 3 out of 1,418.
The German battleship Bismarck has sunk the HMS Hood. The loss is a great one.
News of Hood's loss struck Britain like a physical blow. People wept in the streets of London. Silence fell in Parliament when Churchill announced the news.
The HMS Hood has been sunk.
Every British family knew Hood, from postcards, newsreels, newspapers. She was as familiar as Tower Bridge. Churchill personally called the commander of the fleet. His words were short and merciless.
Sink the Bismarck.
What followed was the greatest naval hunt in history. The entire Royal Navy gave chase. Bismarck was sunk 3 days later, but it did not bring Hood back. In 2001, an expedition discovered the wreck of Hood on the seabed of the Denmark Strait. Depth, 9,186 feet. The ship lies broken into 3 main sections, the result of that catastrophic explosion. Her main turrets rest nearby, anchors still in place. On the wreckage, the circular scars of German shells are still visible. The British government declared the site an official war grave. 1,415 men lie there, and they will not be disturbed. HMS Hood lived for 21 years. In that time, she circled the globe, visited dozens of countries, and was seen by millions. She was beauty and power, a symbol and a promise. She was destroyed in 8 minutes because of a design flaw that had been known since Battle of Jutland and never fully fixed. That's the real tragedy of Hood. Not the explosion, not even the sinking, but the fact that her loss was predictable. 25 years between Jutland and the Battle of the Denmark Strait. 25 years of missed chances to correct a fatal weakness. But symbols aren't modernized. Symbols are displayed, admired, celebrated in every port. And then symbols die, fast, brutally, completely, leaving behind 3 survivors, a slick of oil on the water, and one question no one can truly answer. Why did we know and still do nothing?